Thank you for tuning in to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. Whether you're listening during your commute, while working out, or just relaxing at home, we appreciate you. Every download, every listen, and every subscription means a lot. Up next, the 12 Kyle podcast.
Most athletes, they are very superstitious about the numbers that they wear. You can't give an athlete any number and say, hey, just wear it. Some athletes don't like the fact that it doesn't look or feel good, and they correlate that with their play. And so Mike Vick went on to tell the story about how wearing number 2 just wasn't working for him. And he spotted one of his teammates at practice before practice started one day, and this particular teammate was wearing the number 7. And he said, hey, do you want to swap jerseys? So they took their jerseys off and exchanged jerseys. When he put the number 7 on, he played really, really well that day in practice. And he said it just really just took off from there. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Thank you for downloading. And thank you for subscribing to the latest edition of the 12 Kyle podcast. I am your boy, 12 Kyle. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Shout out to those of you who are watching on YouTube as well as Spotify. Man, check this out. So the other day, I was watching a podcast that I like to watch from time to time on YouTube. It is called 7 p.m. in Brooklyn with basketball legend Carmelo Anthony. I'm a big Melo fan, always have been since his days at Syracuse. And I usually try to tap into his new episodes, at least, when they drop or shortly thereafter. And on this particular episode, he had on as a guest Mike Vick, former NFL quarterback, current college football head coach at Norfolk State University. And, Mike Vick was talking about, obviously his playing days and things of that nature. And he told a very interesting story that struck an chord with me. He mentioned how he was in practice, and it may have been a game as well, but he was wearing the number 2. Now, we all have, at least from the time that he burst onto the scene nationally, we remember Mike Vick wearing number 7. But in this instance, I think he said he was in high school, and he was wearing the number 2. And he said he was just playing really, really bad. I mean, he couldn't understand why he was playing so bad. And he said he long coveted the number 2, and this was his first opportunity to play in the number. And the thing that really struck with me was the fact that no matter who you are, no matter what level you're playing on, most athletes, they are very superstitious about the numbers that they wear. You can't give an athlete any number and say, hey, just wear it, because some athletes understand how it looks. Some athletes don't like the fact that it doesn't look or feel good, and they correlate that with their play. And so Mike Vick went on to tell the story about how wearing number 2 just wasn't working for him. And he spotted one of his teammates at practice before practice started one day, and this particular teammate was wearing the number 7. And he said, hey, do you want to swap jerseys? And so I'm assuming this was the practice jersey. So Vic and the teammate, he was like, yeah, cool. So they took their jerseys off, took them off, and exchanged jerseys. Now, a practice jersey, more often than not, is not going to have your last name on it. So it was cool. And again, it's football, and I'm assuming if it's high school, they definitely didn't have the names on the back of the jersey. And nonetheless, when he put the number 7 on, he played really, really well that day in practice. And he said it just really just took off from there. And he didn't wear anything for a long time other than the number 7. And so it got me to thinking about the numbers that I wore when I played football. As many of you know, or maybe you don't know, I played football from Little League all the way through high school, all the way through college at South Carolina State. If you're watching on YouTube and Spotify, you see my helmet here to my right. And behind me are two jerseys from South Carolina State with the number 12. And then there's a jersey behind me directly that says my last name and the number. You can see it there. And so it got me to thinking about my journey with my numbers. So I wanted to kind of pull the curtain back a little bit and just explain the numbers that I wore and the significance that they had. Now, my first year of playing football, I was very, very small. I was so small that the weight limit was 60 pounds, right? And so I only weighed 55 pounds. And so my parents had to sign a waiver. They had to sign a waiver basically saying that my child is underweight, and if something happens to him, we're not going to sue this park in Florence, South Carolina. And they did it. And so, but my first year, like I said, I was underweight, and it was cool. I mean, I it didn't matter to me one way or the other, but because I was playing football and it was something that I wanted to do. And again, I was only 8 years old, but that's the first time I started playing organized football. And I'll never forget the cost to play, I think, was $20. So it was $20 well invested, if you will. And so they gave you a helmet, shoulder pads, pants, knee pads, thigh pads, that type of stuff. But when the games came, my first number was number 84. And I played for a team called Maryland Fried Chicken. Not to be confused with Kentucky Fried Chicken or Louisiana Fried Chicken. It was Maryland Fried Chicken. And a team nickname I'll never forget was the Chicken Hawks. Shout out to all the Chicken Hawks. Maryland Fried Chicken was a lot of fun. I was really, really cool with playing with my teammates, and I got to, love the game instantly. I love competing, and I played very well wearing the number 84. And so I wore that for a year. And then I want to say the next year and this is Pop Warner football. So the next year of Pop Warner, I wore number 88, again, playing for Maryland Fried Chicken. Now this year, when I put on the 88, and I guess let me go back. I wore 84 because I played wide receiver and I played cornerback, but I probably I know I started at wide receiver. I don't think I started. I know I didn't start at corner. But it was just cool because, as a wide receiver, you're going to wear a number in the 80s, right? So I was cool with wearing number 84. Then my second year, I moved to number 88. And that year was special because that was the year, it was only my second year, but I took off as far as a player was concerned. Like I was, a very, very good player. I was an all-star player. I started at receiver and at corner, and I led the league in interceptions, all while wearing the number 88. And it was a lot of fun. In fact, what's interesting is I still have my 88 jersey, and if I find it, and I know it's in this house somewhere, if I find it, I'll take a picture of it and put it up here as well. And for those of you watching, you'll be able to see it on YouTube and Spotify. It's way too small for me to try to put it on. But 88 was cool. 88 was, there was no, I mean, of course there were other receivers in the NFL that wore number 88 that were dope, but it was just a number for me. There was no nothing significant about it as far as relating to players. Lynn Swann, I think, probably is the receiver that came to mind, the Pittsburgh legend, as far as, relating the numbers. But other than that, I there was no particular reason why I had to wear 88, but I wanted to wear it anyway. All right, so then I wear 88 for a couple of years, and then I move up to the junior league of Pop Warner. And this was interesting because at this particular time, I donned the number 12. And I distinctly remember this. It's funny how these things come back to you. I distinctly remember this because we were at practice and practice had ended, and one of the coaches, my dad was an assistant coach, but I think the head coach was talking about numbers, the jersey numbers, and was asking the kids what number they wanted. And somebody, whoever, I guess he asked somebody before me, and they said they wanted 88. And personally, I wanted a team's number anyway. I really wanted 13 because my favorite quarterback, Dan Marino, was wearing number 13. Now, again, I played wide receiver. I wasn't playing quarterback. But I distinctly remember the kid who got asked before me chose 88. And so I was like, let me get number 12. And nobody else was wearing number 12. I don't even think nobody wore it on that team the year before, even though I wasn't on that team. But because I remember watching them play. And so I got number 12. And listen, I've never felt so cool and comfortable in a number than number 12. I thought it looked good on my jersey. I thought my jersey looked good on my pads. It looked, well, we used to call it, it just looked sweet. It looked real sweet, real pretty, real fly. And so I was cool. And then I wore number 12 I played, I think, junior pop. I think I played 3 years. So I wore number 12 all 3 years. And I was one of the best players in the league. And it was a lot of fun. And again, but my team, I'll be honest, we just didn't win. Like those years on Maryland Fried Chicken, we sucked. And I remember one particular year, I think it was the second year I wore 88. I was like the best player on the team, but we were terrible. And I remember at one point I wanted to quit. And my dad was like, no, you're not quitting. He was like, you start the season, you'll finish the season. He was like, at the end of the season, if you don't want to play, fine, but you will not quit on this team because you made a commitment. He was like, and it was a lesson that he instilled in me and my brother too as well. You don't ever start anything and quit. You see it all the way through, and then when it's done, if you want to try it again, then cool, but you're not going to quit. And so, we sucked, and I got tired of losing. And I remember going to him and telling him, like, Dad, I want to quit. And he was like, no, you're not quitting. And I said, well, I'm going to quit. And he said, well, I tell you what, if you're going to quit football, he said, you go upstairs and get ready for the worst spanking of your life. And I was like, on second thought, I'll stick it out, at least through the end of the season. And so I played a couple of years in the junior pop league, wearing number 12. Then I moved when I got to high school. Actually, what was interesting was my last year of junior pop, I was in 9th grade. So I was probably one of the oldest kids in the league. One of the best, but also one of the oldest kids in the league because most of my friends or people my age were on 9th grade. If they were in 9th grade, they were playing junior varsity, JV. And so I didn't play JV until I got to the 10th grade. And so I remember, my first year of junior pop, my second year of junior pop, we won city championship. We went to North Carolina and played a team out of Fayetteville, North Carolina, beat them. So we won the state championship. So we were like little league champs. And it felt good to win. And I was in 8th grade. And I had the option of playing junior pop one more year while in the 9th grade or moving up to junior varsity. But I chose to, stay and hone my craft. And so I was, again, number 12 in junior pop for my 3rd year, but I was in the 9th grade. And then so when I got to the 10th grade, I was on JV. And I wanted number 12, but honestly, looking back, I don't think number 12 was available. I don't think anybody wore that number. So I went back to 88. And 88 was cool. I just remember the one thing I remember about my JV squad was my pads were really, really big. And so 88 looked even bigger on me than it probably should have been. But it was fun. We had a decent season, nothing to brag about. And then so my junior and senior year, I would be playing varsity football. So my junior year, before the year starts, we have a new head coach, Coach Virgil Wells, rest in peace. And because the previous coach, Coach English, passed away. I think he had pancreatic cancer, I think. Um, great man, great man. I wish I wanted to play for him. Um, didn't get a chance, but Coach Wells came in and he had this high-powered offense that he wanted to install, and we already had a great quarterback in my boy Keyshawn Durant, and we had a bunch of weapons. And the cool part about it is most of us had played either JV or varsity, and we had been playing football together probably for the better part of the last 3 or 4 years on different levels. And so they asked, and I said, well, I don't think, for some reason, I don't recall wanting number 12. I don't know if number 12 was even available at that time. So I'm thinking that it wasn't. So I chose number 1. I chose number 1. And if you wear the number 1, if you wear a single digit, you got to be a bad man. I mean, in football, you couldn't get a single digit and be terrible. So I wore number 1 the previous 2 years, I think. The cat who wore number 1 was the starting quarterback, a guy by the name of Gary Gregg. Shout out to Gary. And so I knew I wasn't playing quarterback, so I was going to play wide receiver and cornerback. And I started at receiver my junior and senior year. Played a little bit of corner too as well, but mostly my talents was going to be on the offensive side of the ball. And I had a great 2 years at Wilson High School in Florence, South Carolina. My senior year, according to my quarterback, because I still haven't seen this in black and white. It's just because I haven't seen it in years, but he said I led the state of South Carolina in yards per catch. I was a deep threat, pause. so, and I'm not, wasn't that big either. I mean, I might have been 145 pounds with Tim's on, but, had a big heart, and we had a great team. We were 8-3. Surprisingly, did not make the playoffs, and that's a long story for another day. But when wearing the number 1 was special. I had, I used to write my name and the number 1 all on my notebooks and stuff, and I sign autographs. Nobody was asking me for autographs, but I was preparing to sign autographs and the number 1. And one of my homeboys, he started calling me Quick. And he spelled it Q-U-I-K, Quick 1. And so that was my nickname, Quick 1. And so it was fun wearing number 1, man. And I was like, okay, this is dope. And had a great senior year and got recruited by a couple of schools. I wasn't that tall. I had great stats, but I wasn't that tall. And, schools looking for big receivers. Not a lot of schools are looking for smaller receivers. The run and shoot offense was very popular, but to me, I wasn't going to Houston to go run and shoot. It just wasn't happening. So I decided to take my talents to South Carolina State University. Did not have a scholarship offer. Was recruited by South Carolina State, but did not have an offer. They said, hey, we'll let you walk on. So I was like, okay, cool. I can walk on because, my academics had already taken care of that. So, but I was recruited by Hampton, South Carolina State University. I can't even say I was I went on a recruiting visit to Fayetteville State University, and I didn't like it. So I wasn't really heavily recruited, but the number 1 had worked for me, and I was going to make sure that it was going to work for me at South Carolina State. And I'll never forget, we had a meeting my freshman year right before the season was about to start, and they were asking people what numbers they wanted. So the coach got to me. He said, well, hey, what number do you want? I said, hey, I want number 1. And then all you could hear, we were in an auditorium, just the players and the coaches. And all you heard was a bunch of chuckles. And I was like, the hell are they chuckling for? I said, I want number 1. I did not know that the starting quarterback, my man Marvin Marshall, was wearing number 1. I had no idea because the previous year I was in high school. I didn't see him play. I didn't see him on the field. I didn't see him any highlights. So how was I to know that he had the number already? And so they so I couldn't get number 1. So I was pissed. And so what they ended up doing was giving me what they call a duplicate, because my freshman year I was redshirting, meaning that I wasn't going to play. I was just going to practice. So I wore number 25 in practice, and I wore number 28 on game days. And I didn't like that at all, because a duplicate means that somebody else has that number, and it's not like how it is now. Because like how it is now, if I wore number 12 and I played wide receiver on offense, a safety on the same team at South Carolina State could wear number 12 as long as we're not on the field at the same time. And so you can do that now. But back then, they just called it a duplicate. It was primarily for somebody who wasn't playing. So if you had a duplicate number, you weren't playing, and whoever had your number they were probably playing. So I wore number 28 a couple of game days. I wore number 3, which was terrible because my boy Russell, he had number 3, and he was a backup quarterback. And so I didn't like the fact that I had my freshman year, I wore number 20, number 28, and number 3 on game day. And then, like I said, in practice, I wore number 25, which was cool because my man Rocket Ismail wore number 25 at Notre Dame when he was in college. But I really wanted number 1. But after seeing Marvin play, I know that I was never going to get that number until he left school. And honestly, by the time he left school, I was pretty sure the school was going to retire the number, so I was never going to wear number 1 anyway. And then I think my sophomore year, we came back. Well, my redshirt freshman year, and they said, "Hey, what number do you want?" And I looked around, and I said, "Is 12 available?" Because I didn't want anybody laughing at me. I genuinely didn't know. There was a guy, I think it was J Mac. J Mac wore number 12 my freshman year. So this is the following year, my redshirt freshman year. And 12 was available. And I took it. And I ran with it. And I wore number 12 for the rest of the time that I was at South Carolina State University. And it worked. I mean, we won the Black College National Championship in 1994. And I wore that number, and I did not relinquish it. My senior year, I wore it as well. And when football was over, it was over. I didn't have a bunch of stats. I didn't, I played a lot every year, but I didn't start until my senior year. And so, so I didn't have the stat. I wasn't going to the pros. And I was 5'7", 155 pounds, soaking wet with Tim's on and gold chain. So it wasn't happening on the next level. And I knew that. So it was fine. And so the number 12 basically was going to retire, not at South Carolina State, but I was going to be done with the number 12 at that time once my playing career was over. And then a weird thing happened. Several years later, there was a movement of people on blogs, and people would get on blogs and they would comment, and some of the discourse between people back and forth was really, really cool. And I remember looking for a moniker, a name, if you will, so I could comment, because my homegirl, shout out to my girl Elisa Renee, who's Russell's wife, by the way. Lisa had a blog, and I remember saying, like, I don't know, like, I wanted to comment on her page, and I was like, I don't know what I should say or what I should call myself, because people had these, names. There were names like Eclectic, shout out to E, and everybody had like different names. It was the early stages of what we now know as social media. And Lisa told me, she said, "Why don't you call yourself 12 Kyle?" And I thought about it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of dope, because I wore number 12 in college and Little League, and my name is Kyle. So, I could rock with it. And I created a profile. I commented on her blog, and then I would comment on her blog and like her friend's blog and other people who would comment on her blog. And she told me one day, she said, well, why don't you just create your own blog and you could talk about what it is you want to talk about on your blog? And I was like, all right, bet. And I created the 12th Planet was the name of my blog. And it's in the blog still exists to this day. I don't post anything on it, but just podcast stuff. But and the blog is still here to this day from the first episode called The Genesis all the way through, today. And it just stuck. After that, people started commenting on the blog. People found it. I would eventually evolve and have a nice following on that blog, and to the point where I decided to participate and start my own internet radio show on Blog Talk Radio. And so it's funny how that journey happened. The name of this person that you're listening to and watching, it all started with a number. And the number started way back in junior pop, when I was in the 8th grade. Or I might have been in the 7th grade. Yeah, I was in the 7th grade when I took the number 12. And the number 12 is stuck. And it's been a beautiful number, and it's a number that's synonymous with me. And you just never know where number is going to take you. So in conclusion, I mean, I totally get where Mike Vick was coming from. Sometimes you can have things go a certain way, and it may not go the way that you wanted to go based on that particular number, based on a feel, based on a look. But I think the number 12 has been a good feel for me. It's been a good look, and it started, just one day playing Pop Warner football, and look at us now. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast. We drop new episodes every Thursday. Also, we have merch. If you're interested in purchasing 12 Kyle Podcast merch, click the link in the description box, and there you can buy 12 Kyle Podcast t-shirts, hoodies, as well as coffee mugs. We got it for the low. That's going to do it for me. Thanks again for checking out this edition of the 12 Kyle Podcast. I am your boy 12 Kyle. I'll catch you guys next time. 5,000. Cheers.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of the 12 Kyle Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and share this podcast with a friend who needs the 12 Kyle Podcast in their life. Every listen, every download, and every share helps us grow. Thanks for being a part of the 12 Kyle Podcast community. We appreciate your support. We will catch you next time. 5,000.